You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. You are visiting the Waystation, your source for Star Wars news and rumors. Today's October 1st, and it's been about 2 weeks since we've had one of these shows, but we were kind of saving some of these more recent news items, and we got a big announcement that I know a lot of people have been talking about this week, which is the final, I guess, the ending of the Writers Guild strike, and we're going to talk about what that means with regards to Star Wars. We've got some video game news in here, some television news as well. So a couple of really fun topics to discuss, and who better to talk about these with than the returning member of our show now, Ed Garcia. Ed, welcome all the way from Canada once again, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Nobody better. I can think of like 7 people better, but I was available.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
7 people. Some of them are in the audience tonight, actually. I've already seen some of them chime in, so way to call them out. But yeah, thanks for being here again, man. How's your 2 weeks been? How's your week been so far?
It's been good, man. I don't know. Just kind of getting into fall here in Canada. It's getting a lot colder. I've been drinking all my pumpkin spice lattes. It's been great.
Yeah, I've been getting my reps in too. Like every day I drive by, pick one up, come back. What about, how are you doing with Ahsoka? You caught up now on Ahsoka?
I am caught up.
Okay.
I'm liking it. I don't know. I think we're going to get into it a little bit later, but I feel like I have a feeling, I have an idea of where they might be going, but I'm not really sure as far as any quality anyway.
And not to put you on the spot here, but I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you when we get to the Ahsoka stuff about the finale, and we're going to record this and we are going to hold you accountable for your answers come next week. So good luck with that. We're all counting on you. All right.
Is this like Sunday Night Football where they make their predictions and
it's just like that.
Actually pays attention.
It's just exactly like that. No one pays attention. I mean, that is the motto of the show, if I'm just being completely honest. Hey, before we go any further, I just want to say thank you again to all of our Patreon members, especially those folks that are in our Now Part of the Tribe section. So that's Rob, Mike Borda, Lauren, Dante, Riss Bayless, Justin, Jackson, Sharkman Dan, Daz, Isabella, Uncle Leon, Josh C, Jacob, Reed, and Reader Reborn. And also we got a new Patreon member. So that's Daz has joined the We Are All the Republic tier. And also thank you to our Delusions of Grandeur tour, which is the highest tier. And that's Rod, CJ, Alex, who's in the audience tonight. Alex, welcome. And Steve C. If you guys are interested in Patreon, you can head to cantinacast.com/Patreon. Sign up there. We've got tiers that start at $2 and they go all the way up to whatever you want to throw money at us for. They come with all kinds of great perks. We would really appreciate that. And as a reminder, we stream all of these shows for the most part on YouTube. So if you head out to cantinacast.com/YouTube, you can catch this stream, all of our past streams, and any content that we put out there. So please visit our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff that you know how to do. And as another plug, just remember that we did, Lauren just turned in a new episode of Jedi Novel Archive. And this is a Thrawn refresher. She's getting a lot of great feedback on this. So for anyone, especially now that we're going into the finale and kind of like, hey, why do I need to know about this Thrawn character? What is it that's so, what stands out? She's taken some of the more recent books and has compiled a list of the things that you probably need to know as a refresher, and really has, again, gotten a lot of great feedback for folks that just never got a chance to read the books. I mean, we all know who Thrawn is, and we all just accept that he's a menace, right? And that he is a threat to be reckoned with. But she does kind of lay out some really good points as to why. A lot of it's around strategy, but I'm not going to ruin it. Head out to cantinacast.com/YouTube and check out her new Jedi Novel Archive episode. So, Lauren, thank you so much, as always, for your work. She's doing the Lord's work. All right, let's get into the news. And all right, we're going to lead in with the writer's strike. So I've got a visual here. So anybody that's watching, it's for you. Otherwise, we'll do our best to kind of describe here. But I guess in a nutshell, the way I would interpret this is officially the writer's strike is not over. They've come to an agreement, I think today, Sunday at some point, and I've not even checked the news, honestly, to see if they made any updates on this, but they were going to, I guess, put something in writing officially. So I guess the good news, Ed, is that the writer's strike's over. However, I guess maybe the bad news is the actor's strike is still going on. So I guess your overall kind of thoughts, opinions, your take on the writer's strike and kind of like what we should expect here with the agreement.
Well, I guess they just really had to get the writers done first, right? Because like as soon as the actors strike is over, they can get back to work. Whereas like if the writers you know, get back to work, it's still going to be a while before they can film anything or do anything because they actually have to write the things.
Yeah.
And it sounds very promising, right? I think the union already backed the thing, so I think it's literally they got to sign things, and they might have signed it by now. I was just trying to take a peek there on the Google machine and couldn't find anything. But you know, they're getting their health benefits. They're getting, you know, the increased writers' rooms that they wanted, the minimum staff, which just helps with projects further down, right? Because that's also the of writing that they need. You know, they need other writers to become showrunners to kind of progress in the craft. They're not going to ban AI, but they have an agreement of how to use AI in the future. So I think that's, you know, okay. I like that. The writers and the actors haven't figured it out yet. But I was kind of hopeful until I saw a quote from Fran Drescher, and I'm trying to find where I wrote the quote down here.
She is the, what is it? The president of the Writers Guild Association?
Or, the actors, the nanny. The nanny is in charge of all the actors. And basically she said something along the lines, oh, here it is. We're happy.
I'm sorry. Hey, Ed, sorry. Can you do it in the voice, please? Can you do it in her name? No, I'm kidding. Go on. Sorry.
I don't think I could do that. We're happy WGA came with an agreement, but one size doesn't fit all. We look forward to resuming talks with the AMTP. So it's like, oh, I was really hopeful until that. Then it's like, I just figured, okay, we got one deal done. Other deal, basically the same thing. But maybe not.
Yeah, and I think tomorrow, I think 10/2, from what I read, was October 2nd, tomorrow, Monday. They should go back, and I think they're going to resume talks with the Actors Guild. So hopefully they'll come out. So what do you think? I mean, it feels like this is probably, I mean, it's good news that the writers or the Writers Guild strike is potentially over at this point, right? Do you think that has any weight or any bearing, I guess, on the Actors Guild? I mean, it feels like they go in hand in hand, but it feels like if they're willing to come along with one, it seems like it should be a little bit easier from to swallow the second pill.
Absolutely, right? Like if you've gotten one down, you should be able to get the other one down. I feel like that whole Drew Barrymore and Bill Maher scabbing a couple weeks ago, or trying to scab a couple weeks ago, and they saw the backlash that they got. The studios are like, oh, are we the baddies? Does everybody hate us? Oh, maybe we should actually negotiate with these people instead of trying to break them and get back. And also from like what it sounded like, there's certain studios that had been willing to negotiate this entire time, but because the studios have like a pact that they can't negotiate on their own. So like Warner Brothers, for example, who's been like hard up for money, they're like, no, we'll sign whatever. We need to actually get content out there. And like Disney and whoever else is like, no, we can wait. We've got enough money to wait. And
exactly.
Hopefully, like, what's the point, you know, for them to agree with the writers if they're not going to agree with the actors soon, too, right? Like, it would just kind of be a waste of time to be like, okay, writers, get back to work. Hold on, actors, we got nothing for you yet.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. At some point, it's going to come to head, right? So this gives them a little bit more breathing room. They can get back to putting stuff back into production from a writing perspective, right? That development work can continue to happen. However, at some point, they're going to run out of runway, and it's now time to do the acting, and they've got to hopefully have something in place, you know, of course, when that happens. For those of you
also,
go ahead.
So I was going to say, like, another thing with the actors too is that there's a lot of movies coming out that, you know, they're already in the can and they're not allowed to promote it. Right. They're not allowed to promote these things. And they very much, you know, if the talk shows are back tomorrow, they want to have those actors. Right. We've got a couple Marvel movies, or that the Marvels movie coming out in November. We've got like Loki coming out, I think, next month. There's a lot of things that they want people on the Tonight Show. They want people on Kimmel. They want people on whoever, just to promote these things, because as of right now, they can't. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've seen some of the, I guess, the repercussions of not being able to get out there on the press junket and really kind of promote this, right, at this grassroots kind of level. We've seen some of that and some of the impacts on some of the movies that happened in the last, 146 days, 154 days, or no, sorry, 146 days total. Yeah, so it's been a while. This is the second longest strike. I think 1988 was 154 days, so just almost came short of actually meeting that or beating that, if you want to look at it that way. That's right. So let's put this in perspective, I guess, for Star Wars, right? So what this does is we know now that, I guess, so Lando, we talked about that 2 weeks ago with you here. That is now potentially at least moving forward. If that is all still holding true, the writers can get back to writing. That's fine. The 3 movies that they've been talking about, those are super early in production. They're probably in the writing phases of that. So those are probably moving out along at this point. And then maybe Mando season 4. I mean, we haven't really got anything officially announced. I think we all kind of know that something's in the works, and it would be really crazy to think they've already gotten past the writing because there's been no mention of it. So at least that can start spinning up as well. I think what's still stuck, though, is going to be something like Andor, because that hasn't really, they haven't done much of anything with that so far.
Yeah.
And then the other shows, I think, just to kind of put those out there, is Acolyte. That finished wrapping up filming in May of this year, and Skeleton Crew was like January. So those weren't really impacted, but I know those have been kind of slotted. They've moved them out, and I think that was probably trying to create some safety, some breathing room there, just in case this thing went longer. So we'll probably see those here in the next, well, we'll see them next year for sure. But, I think at least everything is back on track that was already kind of in flight or was in process of being written or already going to be written. So I think that bodes well.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to get the things that we were going to get. It's just going to be a couple months later. I think I saw a quote from Tony Gilroy, the showrunner of Andor, saying like they discontinued all the writing related to Andor prior to May 1st, prior to the strike. So they haven't touched anything. But I guess as soon as they get the okay to start working on it, they can start working on it.
Yeah, right. So all good news. We'll see. I mean, the only thing that stinks now, and it's funny too, like you've already starting to see some of these movie studios and television studios start prioritizing their shows. Like, hey, we can't send everybody back to work. So, like what is it? HBO, I think they were kind of moving the Dragon series, right? Whatever that was, the whole thing based on
House of Dragon, yeah.
House of Dragon, right? That's getting frontlined for Netflix. Of course, it's Stranger Things season 5. That thing got immediately sent to the very top of the list. So they're kind of having to pick and choose.
Those kids are going to look like 30 by the time they get to the final season.
Yeah, they aged a lot from season 3 to 4, but yeah, we'll see. So yeah, all right, this is all good stuff.
I'm also kind of curious, like how much of the writers were actually just writing on their own time, just like not submitting it. They're on strike most of the day, but you get home, they probably have ideas as they're walking the picket line. They just haven't given them to Disney or whoever. And they probably actually have a bunch of ideas that the first day of work and be like, all right, here's most of Andor actually done.
Right, yeah. Here's this tome that I wrote in the last 146 days. Please read through it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. When can we start? Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder how much of that stuff has been. I mean, because Tony Gilroy, he's got to be sitting around. He was at least taking notes or writing outlines and sketches, even though he technically couldn't have been writing. I'm sure there's some gray in there. There's got to be. Yeah. So, all right.
Writing on your own time, I'm sure, isn't that frowned upon.
Exactly. What are you going to do? All right, let's talk about movies. So, Taika Waititi's movie. So this is a very interesting story that's kind of recently developed here. I mean, it's been a back and forth. This thing was announced back in 2019 or something. I'm showing the image right now where Kathleen Kennedy originally announced this on that Star Wars or Disney Day or whatever the heck it was. I forget what it was now. Sometime in December, several years ago. But this movie has been talked about a lot, and it's always been one of two things. Either it's being canceled or it's back on in the works. Taika Waititi's been pretty consistent here. He's continually said, I'm still working on it, although I'm working on a script, right? And I think a lot of folks have looked at this and said, okay, it's been a lot of years, man, and you're still talking about doing a script, and yet you're still doing other movies. You've got other commitments. I think he's got the what was his most recent one? The movie that came out with about the soccer team or whatever it was. I forget what it was called. But yeah, so anyways, he's been doing other things, but yet the Star Wars movie doesn't come out. And so that always leads to rumors of, well, surely he can't be working on this thing now that it's been 4 years, 5 years, whatever long it's been. Last week, there was a lot of rumors saying that this had been canceled. And then suddenly out of nowhere, it was brought up again that no, it hadn't been canceled. In fact, I'm going to quote, we're going back to the Hot Mic with John Roca. We've mentioned them before. On that show, they were talking about how he has talked about this show the movie is still in the works. And so we're back on. So it's funny. Last week, everybody was saying it was canceled. 2 days later, everybody said it's back. I guess the question for you is, Do you want to see a Taika Waititi Star Wars? What would that look like to you? And then we'll kind of get into some theories here about what it possibly could be, because I feel like it's time to rehash some of the stuff that we talked about last time.
Yeah, I'm wondering where he goes with Star Wars, because I don't like quippy Star Wars. I think quippy works for most Marvel stuff, but not all of it. But like he took Thor, for example,
Yep.
in Ragnarok and really just turned it on its head. And it was like a legit funny movie. And then he became like the dude for like a long time. That's probably why he got the Star Wars gig, because they're like, oh my God, look what you did with Thor Ragnarok. That's amazing. And he did other stuff like more grounded, like say Jojo Rabbit. But then I guess, was it last year when Thor Love and Thunder came out, wasn't so good. And a lot of people I know from like Marvel fans, they were like, I don't think we want him to do another Thor movie. And maybe, I don't know if that's leaked into Star Wars fandom, like, oh, do we want this guy doing a Star Wars movie? Because I didn't actually like his last movie. And it's like, he's done so many great things, like What We Do in the Shadow and I don't know, a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's like, okay, he did one, like not even particularly bad. It was just kind of meh. And like, everyone's like, I don't actually like him anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, I actually, first off, I loved Love and Thunder. I'm probably on the fringe there of Marvel fans, but I really did like it. In fact, I think I've liked everything that he's done. I absolutely can understand, and I hear constantly that feedback of, I don't want that in Star Wars. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. And while I would agree, on principle, it probably isn't Star Wars. Like having something like Love and Thunder, Star Wars wise, I don't know. Probably not going to work. But what I would say is, if he was to give us characters in Star Wars that were so far removed, either through time or space, from the main characters, right? He gives us these kind of outcast characters where it's set in Star Wars and, all around you, environmentally wise, it feels like Star Wars, that sort of thing. But yet it's more of, I'm going to say Love and Thunder. I think that's probably the extreme. I don't think he's going to go that far. I think he'll probably kind of rein it in a little bit. But I don't think that necessarily would be a bad thing. And I could be wrong, and I probably am, but I would like to at least to see in how it would turn out, because we've gotten some really good Star Wars. It's funny Star Wars in the past. And mostly in, mostly in comic books, mostly in novels or in that sort of thing. And I felt like it worked. There's a place for it. And for me anyways. So I wouldn't mind seeing this, but I totally get the feedback of like, I don't know. This seems like a little too extreme for us, especially here's the part. The problem with this, when you look at this logo here that we pulled up, right? Yeah. You see Star Wars, it looks weathered. It looks like rock. I'm thinking like biblical times, a long time ago, maybe not Dawn of the Jedi where Mangold's supposed to be going, right? But it does feel like it's based on the logo. If this really has any kind of indication of where the movie's going, this could be a long time ago, again, in this galaxy.
A longer time ago. Yeah.
Oh, so let me your feedback on that. If he did something that was so far like removed from, we don't even have like the Darth Vaders and there's no, rebels, none of that stuff. It's just kind of like, I don't know, some oddball situation. Do you feel like that's just too far removed that it doesn't, why even make it Star Wars at that point?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's within the lore, it's fine. As long as it looks and feels like Star Wars is fine. Like when I talked about not wanting to be quippy, like it's Star Wars always had comedy, right? Like C-3PO is the funniest thing that's ever existed. Like you think of like him and R2-D2 is great, but like in Empire Strikes Back, his relationship with Han is one of my favorite things in cinema. And it's so funny and it's so great, but it's funny in a different way than say a lot of Marvel movies are, right? It's a lot of one-liners. It's a lot of just back and forth. It's not the same type of comedy. And if they could figure out a way to have that type of comedy in it, awesome. I'm all for funny Star Wars, but like to make it feel like Star Wars, right? I feel like that's what a lot of people had a problem with the prequels back in the day, because it didn't look and feel like Star Wars. It was on this green screen and it wasn't dirty. It wasn't that thing that we grew up with. And things need to evolve, things need to change. But if you stray too far away from what made it successful, you're going to lose your core audience.
Yeah. I'd agree. Yeah, there was a lot of feedback that the prequel trilogy was too sterile, right? Too clean looking. Didn't look like the weathered look that we got from the original trilogy. Well, to make things even more interesting, I thought I'd pull this up. And this was the other kind of image that was shared originally in that same kind of press release interview or press release announcement that Kathleen Kennedy was doing. they tied this image here, and it looks like, I'm going to guess it's some kind of a planet bubble. I don't know what it is. It looks like there's a meteor swarm going on there, or an asteroid field of some sort. But what always caught my mind and what we kind of jumped into was this pyramid looking shape over here. And I want your thoughts on this. And I'm going to pull up another image that I think some of our viewers are probably very familiar with. And that is the planet, I'm going to use air quotes here, of Mortis. When you look at this, right, and you look at the image of Taika Waititi's concept artwork, I guess, or whatever it was that they did, the first thing that came to mind was, holy crap, is he going to do Mortis? And then I started thinking, okay, he's doing Mortis. They're gods. He did Love and Thunder. Those were gods. Are we going to get some version like that? I don't know. What do you think? Am I like completely crazy, or can you see the I don't know, the line that's being drawn, forcibly drawn in red marker by me here?
Are you picturing like Russell Crowe playing the father, but just, not like Russell Crowe was in Love and Thunder?
That is a perfect cast. Thank you. Yes.
I wonder would they just redo what they had in Clone Wars? Because I know a lot of people online the past, I guess, since Ahsoka's been on, they're like, oh, you know what they should do? They should do a live action Clone Wars. I'm like, why? We have Clone Wars. It was great. It was fantastic. Go watch that. Now, if you want to fill in the blanks of maybe like how the father and the daughter and the son came to be, cool. Maybe do that. But like, I don't know if they, redoing that same, what was it, 3-episode arc in Clone Wars. I don't know if that's the way to go, but revisiting Mortis, I don't know, like how it became to be. You can see like this picture of the little pyramid planet versus the other picture of Mortis. Like this is a lot cleaner. So like maybe it is a prequel to that.
Yeah. And to be clear,
it feels clean, apparently.
Right. And to be clear, like I'm talking about if they gave us some kind of origin, right? Maybe they go back, I don't know, however many thousands and thousands of years before time was recorded, to quote Morgan Elsbeth. If they went that far back, and we get into this part here where, and let's, so just to kind of whack some history here. So the Mortis gods, they're celestials. We know that there are potentially other celestials out there. So if we went back far enough in time where we had a number of different gods that were all kind of playing God or gods at this time, and, we get to see, like you said, maybe this is the cleaner version before that, it got rusted or whatever it is, but some kind of like an origin story of like what life was like that. The dawn, I wouldn't say the dawn of the Force. Maybe that's too far back, because I think that, again, it starts stepping into Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi era, or not. I mean, Dawn of the Jedi, well, I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I would like to see kind of like a, maybe an origin story. I just don't know that Taika Waititi would be the right person. Mortis is so steeped in mythology, but it's so very serious. Like there's nothing, I can't even think of any like funny one-liners that came out of those 3 episodes. I mean, it's pretty dark and pretty deep. So why would you give that to Taika Waititi, right? What could he do with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're given a hard time earlier for saying that, is he going to make it too funny? Is he going to make it too whippy? But at the same time, like, how many episodes of The Mandalorian did he direct? It was 1 or 2. I can't remember, but it wasn't like, it still felt like The Mandalorian. He knows how to make the show feel like it's supposed to be that show. So maybe this is just another project for him to I'm going to leave the comedy stuff here, and we're going to go into the lore and the deepness and just the crazy mythology of the balance of the Force.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think we're quick to probably typecast him as being just the king of comedy, if you will, for action movies. Maybe he would take a different approach to this and take it a little bit more serious. I think it would have lighter moments. I don't think he could escape that. That's just part of him, part of his DNA, right? But, I couldn't, actors do it all the time. How many times have we seen an actor go from comedic roles and being typecast in comedic roles, and suddenly they turn in a dramatic performance that's just like knocks you off your shoes, and then suddenly the course of their career suddenly changes, right? Just shows the depth that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, a lot of the times it's having the lighter moments that makes the harder moments feel even harder, right? Like it makes you feel it that much more, because you've had that wave of, it's not just heavy the whole time. It's like, okay, we had to have some fun here, but like, let's actually get serious for a minute.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I want to move on to some Ahsoka news, and specifically the runtime. All right, so again, this is purely rumor. I'm not even sure exactly what the heck the final number is on this thing. I'm going to run this so we got something in the background here. There's really no significance of this. It's just a trailer. But so the runtime for the final episode is coming in somewhere between 49 minutes, 46 minutes, and 42 minutes. Somewhere between the 42 and 46. It was not very clear to me exactly where this thing landed. But I guess the question is, now that we've had all of the other episodes, and I think for the most part, they've been landing somewhere between the 40 to 45, 50-minute mark pretty consistently, with the exception of the 30-minute episode that we got. I think that was part 3. You know, how do you feel about this? Are you wanting does that feel like the right amount of time, or were you expecting something longer, something shorter? How do you feel about it?
Well, you put a list here of, I guess, the season finales, right? So Mando season 1 was about 50 minutes for the season finale. Season 2, 48 minutes. Season 3, 42 minutes. Book of Boba Fett, an hour and 2 minutes. Obi-Wan, 51 minutes. Andor, 57 minutes. So it's not like it's out of the ordinary, right? For them to go that long for an episode. I always feel like this is the beauty of streaming, that you're not locked into this needs to be 22 minutes or 44 minutes, right? You can just tell the story however long it needs to be. If you can tell the story in half an hour, cool, do that. If it's going to take you an hour to tell the story, cool, do that. As long as you're, not bloating it, not filling too much time, or not cutting necessary things out. However long it's going to take, that's how long it should take. And that's what I love about streaming.
Yeah. And co-sign that 100%. Jonesy and I have said that many times in the show. It's whatever the story needs to be. That's however long it is. It's very different than because we don't deal with commercials. You know what I mean? They don't have to figure out a way to make it 20 minutes, on a standard 30-minute show or whatever, so they can fill in 10 minutes of commercials. To your point, they get the kind of the liberty, they get this creative freedom to kind of say, look, we want to stop the story right here because we want people to talk about it from this point on for the next week or whatever, So yeah, as far as the time goes, for me personally, this feels about right. I saw some folks out there saying, hey, this needs to be an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 20. I don't know that it needs to be, right? We got to also keep in mind that although this is the season finale of Ahsoka, it is really just the beginning of whatever this Dave Filoni verse is, right? He's got other stories, and we're about to weave in Skeleton Crew, and we're about to weave in potentially season 4 of The Mandalorian. The Bad Batch could be in there. You name it, right? There's all these other shows. There's all this other stuff that's kind of happening in this time frame, and we know this is leading up to some movie of some sort, some large event, which probably is going to have Grand Admiral Thrawn at the center of it. So you got to look at it from that perspective too. He's probably going to give us enough in this 49 minutes to kind of answer a few questions, feel like, we know more or less where potentially the story could go, while at the same time still leaving it very wide open for these other series and potential movies to kind of start filling in the blanks and start fleshing out this larger narrative, right? This holistic view of where we are in the timelines. And that's what I'm expecting from 49 minutes to 42 minutes. That's probably enough time to do that. Anything less than that probably is not going to work. And I would say anything more than that feels like it's too much. It's almost like, you're probably belaboring and stealing from some of those other shows as well.
Yeah, and I also feel like I feel like they got a lot to do in this last episode too, right? They can't just be half an hour. But also, if you get a little too much over an hour, it's then why don't you just make a movie? If you want, I get that people love this show, but if you're getting into the hour and a half mark, it's just make it a movie.
Yeah, right. No, 100%. How did you feel about the last episode? Just quickly on, finally getting Ezra back and the band's back together. It kind of ended on a real nice little pretty note there, although we know that's probably not going to last very long.
Yeah, I don't know. I've liked it so far. I feel like it's kind of, in terms of quality of episode, it's kind of felt like it's been the same arc as Andor was, right? Because I don't know if you guys talked about this, but Andor kind of felt like it would be 2 episodes that are okay, that's fine. Then a third episode that's whoa, what did you just do? Can Star Wars do this? That was awesome. And then 2 more episodes that are just kind of setting things up. Then a third episode that was whoa, cool. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for making sure that Star Wars can be high level stuff. And I felt Ahsoka's kind of the same way, right? The first couple episodes were just kind of fine. They're setting up the world and just kind of reminding you of who people are. And then you got to episodes 4 and 5 and it was okay, we're doing something here that's kind of awesome. Then after 4 and 5, I think the last 2 episodes have just kind of been okay, this is okay. But I feel like you're setting me up for something really, really good here.
Yeah. And I like that. And that's, I think that holds true, right? Especially when you consider Dave Filoni. And I mentioned this on social media. I don't think I talked about it on the show, but if there's one thing that Dave Filoni has done consistently well, and you can argue whether or not his writing is consistent across the board, you can argue whether or not his directing is consistent across the board. That's all fair game and subject to debate. But the one thing that I don't think people can disagree with is the fact that when it comes to mid-season finales and series or season finales, he does put in the time. That dude cooks. Like, he has done some of the best Star Wars when a series comes to an end or when a season comes to an end. Like, he's just known for that. He has a good, he's got a good sense, a good eye, good ear, whatever it is, for giving us some answers to some things, but then leaving you just emotionally strung out, like for the next, however long it takes before the story picks up. And he does it through the characters, which I think is the most important thing. Filoni has been very consistent about giving us really good characters, writing really good characters, having characters that we can relate to or feel like we're engaged with in a lot of ways, and then doing something to them or having them go through things that when that series is over, that season is over, you're just, again, emotionally drained in all the best ways and all the worst ways. So I think based on that, I think if nothing else, I think for that, kind of what you were saying now, I think we are going to get a banger of an episode. I think we're going to get a wow, Star Wars just did that kind of thing. And it's going to happen in this season finale. So I'm pretty excited that we're like 2 days away, man. I can't even wait for it at this point.
No, it's going to be awesome.
What's that? Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, now I'm going to put you on the spot. So
I
was going to let you have a breather, but no, it's too late now, buddy. All right. So what I want to do is I've got 4 quick questions here that I want to ask you about the season finale, series finale. Well, season finale, let's just call it that. And one's a non yes or no question, but the other are yes or no's. And you don't need to go any further than that because, quite honestly, we don't have the time. First question, Baylan Skoll, right? What does Baylan Skoll want?
Oh man, like he's there for a reason, right? He wasn't there to just get thrown. He had an ulterior motive. For going there. I don't know. Does he just want a pet whale? Maybe.
That's where he went off to. He went to go.
Yeah, there's like secrets there. Like, maybe like the truth behind the Force, like the real Force. Because remember there was that episode where they were walking through and they're seeing like all the artifacts and whatnot, and it's like it's pure or whatever. This is maybe he's seeking truth. I think that's what he's trying to figure out.
All right, it's a good answer. And I could get there with you in a couple different ways. Whether it's the world between worlds, access to that in some way, the origins of the Force, right? He wants to go back to quote the beginning, whatever that means. Like, and I'm sure we're going to get some kind of answer to that. So, all right. Next question: will Shin Hati convert to the good guys? Do you see her having and I don't want to even say redemption story because I don't think she needs to go through a full redemption, but he kind of abandoned her at the very end. And on top of that, now she's going to go back on dog, right? Riding a dog, trying to get back. By the time she gets there, my suspicion is that they're going to be taken off. And so now she's been abandoned by anybody on that ship. She's been abandoned by her master. And the only people she's got left are the good guys. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, story-wise, I didn't see that. That I don't see her going to the light, but at the same time, I've just seen a lot of people online saying like, "Oh, she's gonna turn to the light." I'm like, really? Did I miss something? All right, let's see how this works out.
It could, and if one way you could get on board with that is like if it's just a means to an end, like if it's just about survival because she doesn't want to be on this planet, and the only people she knows may have a chance to get off this planet are them, and so she plays them in that regard, something like that. I don't know.
Or maybe like, I don't know, like a redemption kind of thing. But like, I have a feeling like somebody's going to die in this episode and we're going to feel it. And like, is it going to be her? Like, is she going to redeem herself, but then sacrifice herself? And we're like, oh my God.
No, I hope not.
Great.
Yeah.
No, you don't think that's going to happen?
Done that too. Well, Star Wars has done that so many times, especially to female characters. I don't know what they have against female characters coming, like doing something good and then suddenly dying. It's just, I can get on a soapbox about that, but.
To be fair with this series in particular, there are actually a lot of female characters. So like
the odds are
the odds are good. Better for this one in particular.
And ironically, I think I predicted before the series, we had our final predictions before the series even started that I think I said Hu Yang was going to die. And I think I still hold that. I think he's going to pass, man. He's done his time.
You think so?
All right. So I heard you say yes. Even if you didn't, I heard you say yes. Okay. Next question. Next question is, will we see Zeb in the finale? Zeb. Yes. Okay. We'll move on. And then final question: will Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka make it back, or are they going to be stranded on this godforsaken galaxy?
I'm going to say one of them doesn't.
Hmm.
Well, like I said earlier, I feel like somebody's dying or somebody's sacrificing themselves or something, right? And if it's not Shin, it's going to be one of those three, and I think one of those three would be more impactful. I don't think they're killing off Ahsoka. Like I don't think that's happening. I think with Sabine, there's just so many stories. If you connect this to like the Mandalorian later on, there's so much to open up there. So like I think Ezra doesn't make it back.
Okay, I'm with you. Like, doesn't make it back as he stays on the planet, or you're saying he may like
he might be done. He might be done.
Dude, you're not messing around. All right. Let's go to we'll wrap up on some video game news. So let me switch over. And I wore my shirt exclusively for this topic, which is about KOTOR. There's been a lot, and I don't know if anybody can see it here. I'm wearing my Knights of the Old Republic shirt today, which I don't wear enough, to be honest. I need to get this shirt out more into the circulation.
Do you just have a rotation, or like does it just get caught in the back of the closet?
Yeah, it's a rotation. Like I need to take a picture of my Star Wars shirts. It is like a mile long, and a lot of times I just wash them and I move them to the right, and really I should be kind of moving the left over to the right so that they kind of get in the full rotation, and I just don't do it. So
that's what I usually do. Just like one rotation. Just you get put to the back, and they just come to the front.
Yep. See you in 3 months, buddy. All right, so let's talk about Knights of the Old Republic. So again, similar to the Taika Waititi movie, this remake of Knights of the Old Republic has been talked about many times over and over again. It's been on, it's been off. This game, I think the development started as early as 2018, believe it or not, when this was first kind of started rumoring that it was going to be remade. Originally, this was targeted for late 2022. Of course, that's not going to happen. We know that now at this point. And so some are saying it could be 2025 if it does come back on. And here's where the story has gotten some legs again. Last week, there were people that were noticing that Sony was removing all of the videos of the trailer that they had released, right? And this led to a lot of wild speculation that, holy crap, this game has been canceled again, because, why would they remove the trailers? Why would they go through and scrape all references from Twitter feeds and other social media platforms of the trailer when, there's no reason to, because, unless you're going to get rid of it. And so everybody caught wind of this. It started like wildfire. And then 2 days later, Sony released a statement saying, oh, guys, hold on. The only reason we did this, and here's a statement. Let's see. It says, where is it at? We're trying to find my notes here. KOTOR remakes are being removed from its YouTube and social media accounts due to music licenses expiring. As part of normal business, we delist assets with licensed music whenever the licenses expire. So they're saying, look, we only pulled this off because we didn't have the rights for the music, or we could have paid more money, but, we're not in the business of doing that. So they removed that from their social media pages. And so I guess based on that, and there's one other one too. So then they came back a little bit later and said that scraping of their social media accounts was also just kind of a practice that they do. They normally go through and remove stuff after 3-4 years, however long it's been. So I don't know. I guess the question is, do you even care at this point? Like, do we need a KOTOR remake, right? How much are people still wanting this? Because it feels like the diehards like myself, who played it a million times and have played it on probably every platform that it's ever been out on, and it's always been the same game, are probably looking forward to it. But I'm not convinced that the normal, everyday, Star Wars fan, like the normal guy or girl or person, would be even interested in this. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think are your thoughts on the game, and whether or not it's coming out?
It's one of, if not the best Star Wars game ever, right? Like I remember playing that with my brother. God, like the original Xbox. It was an amazing game, and it gave you this other world of Star Wars instead of like, I remember playing the Super Star Wars and Super Empire Strikes Back on SNES, and it was like, okay, that's cool, but it's just literally the movie. And Knights of the Old Republic was like, it's Star Wars, but we're going further back in time, and we're going to tell this whole other story, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And what were the other guys? I guess like Phantom Menace was the first like 3D kind of Star Wars game, and it was fine, just like the movie. It was just fine.
Yeah.
But Knights of the Republic was just this other awesome thing. And I don't know, maybe they're GoldenEye had a remake, I think last year
Yeah,
or
that's
maybe
right.
earlier this year. And I remember people were really excited about it, and then they weren't when it finally came out because they thought they were going to get like, oh, the 2022 or 2023 version of GoldenEye, like maybe the same gameplay, but the graphics will be updated. And they just kind of like smoothed it out a little bit, and it really just looked like an N64 game again. And people were like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's not as cool as I thought it was gonna be.
Hmm.
And maybe Star Wars saw that and were like, "Oh, do we actually have to put effort into this? Okay, maybe we'll delay this for a little bit, put some effort behind it, and have like a real version of that." That's just my wild speculation on the whole thing.
Your timing's not off there, honestly, because I think originally everybody just assumed this was going to be kind of a reprogrammed or port, if you will,
Yeah.
onto PS5 and newer generation consoles. And then it turned into just recently, probably in the last year or two, it turned into no, this is a remake. Like this is from the ground up. You look, I've got the picture of the trailer up here, where you got the picture of Revan. Where's it at? Right here. I mean, this was, you could argue this was done for promotional or whatever,
Mhm.
not indicative of what the game's going to look like. Sure, that's fine. But they were pretty clear that this would be a remake from the ground up, right? So this was, who was it? It was Saber Interactive is who's got, and again, this license has been tossed around. It's changed developers' hands a few times now at this point. Saber Interactive, these are the guys that did World War Z, Space Marine 2, if you're familiar with those games. They've got the license. They're the ones that are working on it, but they've come out and said, hey, this is going to be a remake from the ground up. I just don't know the relevance. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if they crank something out, right, with next gen graphics, I
Mhm.
think it's just going to grab people's attention and it may just generate interest on that alone. I just don't know how many people are pining for the story of Revan, right? These days, I think there's a group, a very small group. I shouldn't say that. There is a group of people that know Revan. We love him. We collect all the stuff on them, but I don't think that's by and large, your everyman that's out there. And that's just kind of where I'm thinking. I don't know. You got to balance how much are we going to put into this in terms of time, effort, money, with what does our audience actually look like, right? Is the footprint big enough that we're actually going to turn a profit on this? And maybe that's where I think people may be scared about actually committing to getting the game out.
Like, I don't, maybe it was just me and my friends, but like I remember when Disney first bought Star Wars and they were talking about, okay, we're going to do this next trilogy, but we're also going to do like other stories between. And like there are three things me and my friends were talking about that we were hoping to get like a Ben Kenobi movie, we were hoping to get a Boba Fett movie,
Mm,
and we were hoping to get a Knights of the Old Republic movie. We
yeah.
eventually got two of those things
Hmm.
to varying degrees of quality. But the other thing that, like, I feel like a lot of people wanted, just because it was such a successful video game series, like we want to go back then.
Yeah.
We want to go to another world because we're telling so many Star Wars stories, and we're jumping back and forth in the timeline as it is. Might as well go further back and explore that era of Star Wars.
Yeah. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago too, when we talked about the eras, right? The
Mhm.
website now, they've actually officially listed Knights of the Old Republic, and it's got a whole kind of a little blurb on when that was. So, I mean, that could lend itself to what you're talking about. Like they are going to go back here in some way, whether that's a movie, a video game, books, I don't know what it is, but it feels like they're setting this up, right? They're setting the stage for the Old Republic and introduce new audiences to this era. I think this game could be one of those things that kind of helps, set them on that course, but we'll have to see. I guess the big takeaway is, although people were talking about it being canceled last week, that was really only being spurred on because the Twitter feeds and stuff were being removed. Other than that, there has been nothing official released. And as far as the developer goes, they're still doing something. Now, whether it comes out, we'll have to see. Whether it comes out in 2025, yeah, we'll have to see too. That's still a long way off, man.
Yeah,
All
you know
right.
what? I'd rather they delay the game and make a good game than just release a game that's full of bugs and not quite ready, because that that's just going to make everybody mad and not want to buy it, not want to play it, and they won't make any more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably true of all video games, right? We want
Yep.
them to spend the time, take as long as you need, just give us something good. That's probably true of everything. Let's just be honest, right? All right. Last thing, and this is kind of a fun little thing. So we normally don't do spoilers, but this is not really movie related or TV related. It's video game related. So I was like, all right, we'll go ahead and just put it out here. If you feel strongly about this, let me know. And we won't ever do it again, maybe. But I wanted to show this. So for those of you that play Fortnite, right? every once in a while, and Fortnite, if for anybody that doesn't know, is kind of like this first-person shooter game where you can go around and you can buy different characters and weapons upgrades and skins and all kinds of stuff, right? And they've had all kinds of, I mean, they've had NBA players on this thing. They've had, every character known to man is a part of this game. You can buy the skin and play as that character. Well, here very soon is one of the newest packs that's coming out, expansions or whatever it is. They're going to have Ahsoka Tano as a playable character that you can be, right? And so I've got up right now kind of like everything that you get with it. And you get everything from the skin, they get a little shuttle that they can fly around in. You get like a little tag which you can put on walls and stuff, right? But the one thing that stood out to me, maybe the two things that stood out to me, were Morai, the convor, right? So the daughter, where you can see her in the top there, and I'll give you a better picture of this in a little bit. But then also was the Ahsoka staff, and this is the staff that we saw in the epilogue of Star Wars Rebels. Now, I know I'm still waiting for this to happen. I've been wanting for her to have that staff, and I think we've talked about whether or not we would see the staff in this series before this series ends. I have a hard time getting there based on where we are right now. Like, where is this staff at, and how are they going to explain it in the last episode? But when I see this, I'm thinking, okay, so the dream's not dead, at least for me. Like, it's not over. If they're doing this in the video game, I might be willing to say that they're going to give us her and her staff in Ahsoka the White, as we saw in the epilogue. If not in this last episode, then maybe in the future series. But I guess, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this is really worth even talking about? How much stock would you put into this, making its way out onto TV there?
I mean, she had that lightsaber fight with Balin in the last episode, and she was very like, her outfit had like that big cape, right? It looked like it was, it was hard for her to move sometimes. I'm thinking it's hidden in that cape. Somewhere in there, in the cape, is this staff. I don't know if it extends like Dick, not Dick Grayson, Robin, what's his name? Tim Drake's staff in like Batman. Like he had that staff for a while, it would extend. I don't think that's how this staff works, but I feel like her capey garment thing is big enough and flowy enough that she could be hiding that in there.
Okay. All right. I hadn't thought of it. I hadn't considered the, what is it? What's that called? A telescopic kind of staff, but maybe, I mean, who knows? What's Nightwing? That's what Jonesy just chimed in with.
No, Nightwing had the two little sticks, but when Tim Drake took over as Robin in 1990, whatever, he had like a full length staff, but like to hide it in his utility belt, it would shrink like telescopically.
Okay. All right. I can see that. Music Train brought up a good point. Yeah. This is when the Rise of Skywalker came out, they played the Palpatine announcement. So that was our first indication that Palpatine was coming back. They actually played it it was exclusive to Fortnite. So you would go on to Fortnite. They had a big event. I remember being on there and Palpatine was talking to everybody. And it was I can't remember what he was saying, but he was basically saying the First Order is coming back, or I'm coming back, essentially, right? And so this is, again, before the movie even came out, we had that. So their relationship with Star Wars goes pretty deep. I think Anakin's in the game and a number of other characters at this point. So, and here, I got another picture I wasn't show you just quickly. There's the Convor. Again, that's just a sticker, but, it could be an indicator that maybe we'll see Morai in this next episode or in the series at some point officially, and not just kind of like an owl in the background. I'm not looking for that. And then here's the staff, and you can see it a little bit better. That definitely is the staff, though, that was in the epilogue of Star Wars Rebels. Doesn't look like it telescopically closes, but hey, you know what? It's Star Wars. We got space lasers and all kinds of other stuff. So why not?
Yeah, no, I dig it. Like I love when there's like spoilers from like toys and video games and stuff that they didn't think that, people like us would be like looking into, like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have put that in till after the episode aired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and this is pretty much par for course. Like they have to release the content, right, to all of the clients, and then everybody downloads it, and then they'll trigger the release date, 2 weeks after that or a month after that. So that content sits there, and people get real crafty in getting into the code and extracting all of this stuff out of it, and that's how these spoilers and leaks happen. So again, it could be nothing, but the fact that they're giving us the staff, I don't know, makes me pretty excited. Hopefully we get to see her in her full Ahsoka the White garb, but who knows?
But also, like,
All
the
right.
staff did exist before, right? So it's like, okay, we'll give her this thing because maybe they didn't want her running around Fortnite with lightsabers. They're like, well, that might not be fair. Let's give her this
That's
thing.
very true. And you actually raise a good point. So in Fortnite, everybody kind of has like a pickaxe, right? Something that they use to like build with or whatever. And this is her weapon. This is the one that she uses instead of something else. So maybe it was just there was nothing left, but we have to give her the staff because to your point, lightsabers just wouldn't fly very well. So, all right, well, let's leave it there. I mean, this has been fun, man. Thanks, Ed, for joining us tonight. Thanks for coming back, and love to have you back on for Waystation. Hopefully, now that the strike's over, we're going to get a lot more news. It's been kind of a dry well, to be quite honest, here in the last 146 days so far. But thanks again for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me back. Yeah, no, my pleasure to be here. Anytime you want me, I'm here.
Awesome. Hey, well, before we get out of here, I want to say thank you to everybody that came out to the live stream and joined us, especially, and I got the names here: Music Train, Alexandra, Sky B, Alex was here, Kathy, Gary Smith, Jonesy, Stephanie H, Danny K. I think we also had Danny Peck join us there towards the very end, Gary Smith and Music Train. If I missed anybody, my apologies, wasn't intentional. Thank you guys for joining us on the live stream again. If you want to come out to our live streams, head out to cantinacast.com/YouTube. You can subscribe, get alerted anytime we go live. We would certainly appreciate that. And as a programming note, after this, Jonesy and I are going to come back on here, and we're going to finally get around to breaking down episode 7 of Ahsoka. We didn't get a chance to do it last week, some scheduling things. I wasn't feeling really well at one night. And so we're finally going to get around to it. So it's probably going to kind of be a recap at this point, because I think a lot of people have already talked about it and digested it. But I think we've got some good content that I don't think some folks have been talking about. And of course, it's probably going to be about a 2-hour show. So, buckle in, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that as well. So, all right, before we get out of here, Ed, do you got any final thoughts, words of wisdom, any final crazy predictions going into that last episode of Ahsoka here in 2 days?
I feel like the good guys are going to win. I think that's what's going to happen.
That is a bold prediction, sir. That's why we have you here. All right, guys, thanks so much. We'll see you here in just a few minutes.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.